Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pathways Education. My name is Max. In this presentation, we are going to be going over the second part of skill building, which is interviews, and specifically kind of preparing for interviews, as well as what to do during yours. So, there's going to be 3 steps along this path. First, we're going to be going over the pre-interview prep. So this is kind of talking about how to really prepare for your interview, what you can kind of expect. The second step is going to be about practice, because practicing for your interview is the key part to really succeeding during. And then lastly, the final step of this pathway is what to do during your interview and also what to do after. So the first part of this path, the pre-interview prep. First, we're going to be going over kind of the importance of interviews. Well, they're a fundamental aspect of your career. They are a major part of college and job applications. Mostly every single application that you send to a certain college or organization, they will usually be followed up with a certain interview just to make sure if you are the right fit for their position. Interviews will generally take around 10 to 30 minutes, give or take. It honestly depends on the organization, but be prepared for any type of time period. However, don't really stress about this point for right now. Well, the importance of interviews is that they are really an opportunity to create a meaningful impression on your interviewer. You know, there's a big difference between resumes, which we talked about in the first video of skill building, and actual interviews. And I will be covering that in just a second. And ultimately, you really want to just be your best self, just be yourself, and that will really shine when it comes. So a little bit of a concept check, and we were talking about this in the previous slide. Aside from resumes, why are interviews important for college/job applications? Well, take a second to think about that. And all right, here's the answer. So the big difference between resumes and interviews is that resumes help you get noticed, but interviews are what get you hired and accepted. Why is that? Well, resumes are just really a piece of paper that these employers are reading, and that's what kind of catches their eyes. And the next step is that they send you an email telling you, hey, you got an interview. Now, this is really your time to see what you're all about, who you really are, how you act in person. So interviews help your interviewer get to know how and who you are as a person, and also gives them a grasp of deciding if you are really fit for their team. So, well, on to pre-interview prep. So here's some just really basic steps to really succeeding for the upcoming interview. First, you really want to prepare mock questions that you think they will ask you, and we'll be covering this in future slides. You also want to prepare questions to ask the interviewer about the job, position, and organization. You really want to do your research. And additionally, do not worry about time. You want to just stay calm and really be yourself. That's the most important part. I'd say focus more on preparing proper questions and expecting what kind of questions they're going to ask you rather than focusing on how much time you have. That's really the least important part. So, specifically for college interviews, this is what the College Board has said about them. An interview is a chance for you to meet with someone who represents the college. It's a great way to show your interest in the college, to start a relationship with people there, and to show what you're all about. And this kind of encompasses the importance of interviews. The College Board honestly said it perfectly. So, on to the next step. It's all about Practice, practice, practice. I cannot stress this enough. Practicing for your interview is honestly the most important step of this path. Well, why? Remember, practicing for your interview will help prepare well thought out answers and prevent awkward pauses and stutters. Take a moment to imagine an interviewer asks you a very hard question, and if you can't, if you don't have enough time to really think about a proper answer, and you also have to be quick with your responses because the interviewers, they don't really have a lot of time as well. So by really practicing before, you're able to come up with quick responses, well thought out responses, and that will ultimately make a better impression on the interviewer. So here are some common interview questions that they may ask you. 1, tell me about yourself. That's really a classic. It kind of gives a general idea of who you are, maybe outside of the academic environment, what you do in your fun time, maybe something that will help you really stand out. A second question, why did you apply for this position? Well, this question is very common because they want to know, why are you applying for this position? Is it for personal gain? Is it for academic gain? Is it for you to meet new people? What is it for? Why should we accept / hire you? Now, this is really a question where your response can really make you stand out. What is special about you so that will really help them gain a grasp of how you will contribute to their team, for example. What do you consider to be your strengths and weaknesses? Interviewers don't just want to see what you're good about. They also want to see what you can improve on, and showing that kind of balance and vulnerability, especially with your weaknesses, they will take that into consideration and say, hey, this guy has a lot to learn about this, or maybe even something we can really help them grow as a person or as a person on their team. Another one, tell me about a challenge and how you dealt with it. Apologies for the typo. So, why is this an important kind of question / statement? Well, they really want to see what you have experienced in your life and if there were any hardships that kind of changed you as a person. What motivates / inspires you? This kind of this kind of tells the interviewer, what are your motives? What are your hobbies / what are you passionate about? Outside of the work environment, you can really answer what you like to do for fun. So for example, I really like to go skate around campus. I also like a lot of taking pictures, so photography is a big part of my life. That's just one example. And where do you see yourself in 5 years? They also want to know that you are really looking into the future and really have an idea of kind of what you want to do in the future. So this is a great question for you to answer and see how much you are really considering, not just in the present, but both the present and the future. So now we're on to the last step. This is during the interview and after. There are some very key components for you to really succeed, but if you have done your practice and your practice and your practice, you should be good from here. So 3 main points. You want to dress appropriately, be polite, and watch your body language. If you come into the interview kind of slouched down and not really with good posture, sitting up straight, it kind of shows to the interviewer that you're not really interested in that position. You want to act professional. So that is a very small and minor detail, but it tells a lot about your kind of interests and motives. Don't be quiet when talking to your interviewers. You want to be enthusiastic, you want to be passionate, you want to speak the truth. And most importantly, do not lie. If you lie about something that you have accomplished slash done in the past and they find out otherwise, that's an automatic no from them. They will not even consider you for the job slash college, for example, slash school. This is I'd say the most important part. But kind of going back, don't be quiet. If you're quiet, this also kind of shows to the interviewer, again, you aren't really interested in that. It shows that you really aren't interested in that certain organization or school. It kind of brings down the atmosphere of the interview. And finally, remember to ask your interviewer insightful questions. It's like a two-way street, you know? They will be asking you questions and you also want to ask them questions. And this also shows that you are interested in the position. Again, and then once you're done with the interview, you want to make sure to also thank them for their time. When you finish, shake their hands, for example, and maybe even send a follow-up email afterwards, thanking them for giving you the opportunity to get to know more about them and the organization. So, technical difficulties. Well, thank you guys for listening to this presentation. Hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Follow us on our social media platforms to be the first to know when we upload new activities and videos. And for example, our Instagram, pathways_edu. And you can also check out our website to gain more info about what Pathways education is and